So anytime the bluegills are shallow, because the bluegills oftentimes, you know, are going to stay shallow. Some of our lakes, the Northern Open on Cayuga Lake that I won last year was won off of a bluegill pattern, and that was in August, right? When you get up into those shallows on those inside grass lines, you see these schools of these bull brim, these bluegills, these big ones. And when you see that, you know the big bass are going to be targeting them. And that's what I did in that tournament. The most amazing thing was in that particular tournament, I was fishing a dock pattern. And really neat stuff, where docks intersected the inside grass line. If you had a dock that intersected that inside grass edge, boom, there'd be a bass under every single one. And the cool thing is only the big ones were there. What a drag, right? we fish our whole lives for that, right? But you know, no 12 inches, right? Because a 12-inch bass can't eat a big bluegill, right? So he wasn't there. There was nothing for him to eat. But a you know, 15 to 20-inch bass, yeah, he loves a big bluegill. And they were, you know, that was a great pattern for me. But I always target the bluegills in the shallows in the summertime. Now this is a bait that I designed, and I designed it specifically to fish in the ultra shallow stuff. And that's one of the problems that I had in my fishing, is a lot of the really shallow water crankbaits were big and dumb and loud, and they work when the crankbait bite is on, or when they're really, really aggressive in the shallows. Those types of baits will work, and everybody will catch them. But what I found was a lot of times when the fish are in that ultra shallow stuff, they can be tricky. And I wanted something that was quiet, something without rattles, something that I could work in that 6 inches to 2 foot zone and catch them, you know. And that's where this bait came from. And I actually just have some videos I'm going to show to you guys when we have the breakout session. But this is Pete's Quiet Killer. It's a flat-sided crankbait, and you probably heard a lot of this flat-sided talk over the years. Seems like there's two baits right now that are dominating the shallow water crankbait bite. One of them's a flat side, and the other one's a square bill. The whole country's square bill crazy. And the square bill is a, you know, fantastic big fish catching tool that works well in shallow water. But that's my 1-2 punch. I'm going to be throwing a square bill, or I'm going to be throwing a flat side when I'm up in the shallows. Okay? When things are nasty and aggressive and windy and rainy and lots of current, square bill is going to dominate. But when it gets slick, gets tougher, gets a trickier bite, fish are spooky, sun's high and bright, flat sides are going to dominate the bite. And don't be mistaken that this is a little tiny bait. It's subtle, it can't catch big fish. You will catch big fish on this bait when the conditions are right. Well, some of the components that I put into it, which makes it a little bit special, is my weighting system. That's probably the most important part of this bait. I've weighted it so that it rests somewhat nose down in the water. It's kind of a defenseless position. If you've ever seen a dying bluegill and whatnot, that's kind of the way they rest when they're hurting. But the weight does something else real important. This is a finesse crankbait. It's a slow rising crankbait. Now this is a balsa bait, so balsa has a tendency to shoot right to the top. Well, when it's a finesse bite, you don't want it to. You want it to slow rise, and that triggers some strikes. Right? That gets those strikes that you won't get on an aggressive bait. It's a slow rising bait. But here's one of the coolest things it does. It wanders a little bit as you're reeling it in, and when you stop it, I use stop and go techniques with this bait in particular a lot, because when you stop it, it'll flash to the side. And that is awesome. Like when you see a bluegill try to stop, he throws his fins out. He'll turn his body to the side to stop, to halt his action. And that's what this bait does. When I stop it, it'll flash, it slow rises, and it triggers some big time strikes. And that all comes from that weighting system. The little weighting system also has an ancillary benefit. It helps me cast this bait a little bit, because these little finesse baits can be a little bit more challenging to cast. They're just not that big, not that heavy. But it's got a relatively tight wobble, okay? That's associated with finesse bite. Wide wobbling crankbaits, let me tell you, they're great when the fish are aggressive. When they're not aggressive, a fish will look right past a bait like that. And the subtle presence that this has in the water is better at triggering the strikes. That is definitely key to this bait. It operates extremely well in 6 to 12 inches of water. It's hard to find a bait like this that can operate so well in that shallow water. Shoot. Good question. What color do I like to use? This is my worst selling color of all these crankbaits. It is the deal. I don't know why, but Susquehanna Fishing Tackle has these on the shelf. And they're all but sold out of black and chartreuse, great color. They have shad pattern, and they have a chartreuse with a brown back. And they have a very low amount of those left. They have most of these left. And this, I don't know what it is about those little brown stripes. Maybe it looks like a crawfish, maybe it helps it look like a bluegill, but I don't know what it does, but it triggers a lot of strikes. But that's really what I use. I use a chartreuse bait, I use a shad color, and that's pretty much it. You know, between those two colors, you know, I'm going to get them. And I add a crawl, and this kind of looks like a crawl, but and I call it a chartreuse crawl, but those are the three colors: a crawl pattern, a chartreuse pattern, and a shad pattern. And I don't care whether you're throwing square bills, deep diving crankbaits, you know, swim jigs, whatever it is, those three color combinations are going to get you through 99% of fishing scenarios. Hey, I'm Pete Gluzek.
And I'm Mike Iaconelli.
And this is Bass University TV.
Welcome to Bass University TV, an online video training course where you'll learn champion bass fishing techniques from pro anglers Pete Gluzek, Mike Iaconelli, and their talented special guests.
Everywhere I go in the country, I'm trying to use these techniques because I catch big fish that way.
From on the water to in the classroom.
We want to use that bait to help make that area even smaller and really, really find that sweet spot.
You'll learn sound techniques and strong fundamental bass fishing skills.
You want something that's got a nice limber action, that's going to allow you to build pressure and keep those hooks pinned against that fish's mouth.
Watch hours of video content on multiple topics at your own pace for a low monthly fee. Cancel at any time.
Hold on, because you're going to catch some big fish.
Information is power in the sport of fishing, so learn from the very best.
That's a key theory in all of fishing.
Subscribe to Bass University TV today.
Man, does it trigger a lot of strikes.
Here's the part that you're not going to hear anywhere else. This is the Bass University TV exclusive.